Sounds good.
52 Foxtrot, take 3, marker. Action.
Fuck. Oh my god, they're coming. Okay, get out. Go. Quick. There's something in the basement.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to Found Footage Fridays, our series where we talk all things found footage on a Friday. And I'm back with my wonderful co-host, MikexSerial.
Hey viewers, hope you're having a great Friday and hope it's even better now that you're listening to us.
That's going to be the new tagline for the show, I feel like. I love it. It works perfect. Today we're doing a very special episode where everybody knows us by now. We love to support indie filmmakers, especially in our favorite subgenre of found footage. So today we are joined by Chad Tailor, who is co-producer and main actor in the 2024?
21.
21. How did I know? I didn't realize it was that. I thought it was like brand new. The 2021 found footage movie, Godforsaken. You can watch Godforsaken. Of course, where can you find all things that we talk about here? Found TV. So I'm going to give a quick shout. This is our final ad video, but we will continue to talk about Found TV probably every week. But here's a word to our sponsor for this week's video.
If you are a lover of found footage horror, Found TV is the app for you. From all sorts of mainstream titles to indie projects, they have every subgenre of the subgenre. New releases constantly, as well as world releases that have never been seen before. If you are a fan of found footage and you love horror movies, you should already have this app.
So we are super excited. We are big fans of Found TV. Steve and I actually covered Godforsaken. It's been a while. I think it was back before our break when it first came out on Found TV. So if you haven't seen that, I'll try to remember to link the video in the cloud so you can go check out our review of that. Spoiler alert, we all really loved it. We had a great time with it. And so we're super excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the invitation. Love talking about the movie. I love it.
Yeah. Because this movie took place in your hometown, right?
It did, and we actually used like the name of my hometown. We got
wow.
got the whole town involved. The town gave me like the key to the city. I was able to go everywhere and shoot everywhere, kind of permit free. It was just an amazing experience, and it was so great to like bring my film career back to my hometown, back to my roots.
Yeah, I bet it was. Yeah. And before we jump too much into the movie, I did kind of want to give everybody an opportunity to get to know you better and learn a little bit more about how you got involved with the project and kind of your history with filmmaking.
Yeah, myself and the other director, Ali Akbar, and Mariah McDonald, the other producer, we all went to film school together at Toronto Film School. That's where we met. And while we were students, we worked together quite a bit on each other's projects.
That's cool.
And that's really where the bond started, right? And then we worked on a couple things outside of film school. Then Ali approached me with this idea to shoot. He had been to my hometown a couple times.
Okay.
He shot some other short films there. And he was like, I have this idea. What do you think about going back to your town and making a found footage horror film? And I was like, awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's really cool. And it checks a lot of boxes, I think, for me in general. And I know it did for Mike as well, just because it is very, very unique.
Yeah, I actually had a question because it being in your hometown, and this is a question that I had on my own, but I know Angel and Steve discussed it in their review as well. And I feel like you somewhat answered it, being given the key to the city, basically, to your small town. Because this is a religious horror movie, and it's got some crazy scenes in a church.
Yes.
And I was just very curious how you got to swing that, because from growing up as in a religious household as well, I can't see many of the churches that I went to allowing what you guys
No.
did. So I was curious
No.
how that came about, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, it was a big ask
Yeah.
to approach one of the churches. I myself, yeah, I grew up a little bit religious with my family, and we had went to this church that's in the film when I was a child.
Yeah.
And it's the United Church. They're a little bit less strict and a little bit more open with
Oh, that's
things.
good.
So they know me, they know my family, they know I'm a filmmaker, and they were just like so supportive to help me in my endeavor to make the movie and help me create. I've actually used this church a couple times in other films as well.
Oh,
That
that is awesome. And thank you to that church, because yeah, that opening sequence, that was a wild start to almost any movie I've ever watched. And I really was a fan of it. And I kind of mentioned this earlier off screen. Um, to many, found footage kind of has a formula for that many directors follow, and it's very much a very slow burn. And in
Yeah.
those final 20 minutes, like, things go either really ridiculous or like it packs that punch. There's a lot of exposition throughout the movie, but it takes you a while to get to the meat and potatoes of a movie.
Yeah.
That is not the case with Godforsaken. I clocked it at, like, I think it's around 2 minutes and 18
It's
seconds.
the very beginning.
That
Yeah.
stuff already goes down. People are running out.
Yeah.
But because of that, and the pace never lets up. Like, it's a constant grab your attention movie. And this is why was mentioned to you earlier. This is one of the number one movies I will always recommend to someone who wants to get into found footage, because it's an attention grabber. If people haven't dabbled into it and don't understand that it's a slow burn, they can find something in this movie, because it's fast paced, but it's very found footage. And so I appreciate this movie so much for that. And I love it.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we didn't want to follow the normal format. We wanted to we wanted to grab people's attention right from the beginning, right? So like, well, we're all horror fans ourselves, right? And then we
Awesome.
know all those formulas, but it's
Even
like,
better.
let's
Yeah.
just throw it out the window. Let's do our own thing. Let's grab the audience right at the beginning and then just see where it goes from there. And it ended up, as you said, like it ramps up the entire time.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
throughout the entire movie, evenly paced, and then just those are so many moments that are attention grabbers, like beginning, middle, end. There is something that literally held me captive throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did want to mention or to ask is, because you said you guys are horror fans. Were you familiar with found footage films? Was this something that, like, you knew you wanted to make a found footage film? Or, like, I know a lot of horror filmmakers will use this as a stepping stone to
Yeah.
start other movies, or did you just know, like, we need to make a found footage film?
The director Ali, he wanted to make the found footage, and I mean, as producers, found footage is a lot cheaper than your
Yes.
other types of horror movies. So
Yes.
that was one reason that we decided to go that way, because we privately funded the entire film ourselves. So
Okay.
we were able to get a pretty low budget, and like we were inspired by obviously the Blair Witch and Wreck as well, was
Oh,
kind of an
yeah.
inspiration. And Ali was also like, he's from the Middle East, so he was inspired by like some Bollywood horror films as well, some really
Oh,
creepy
that's
things
cool.
he saw when he was a child. And he wanted to like infuse that with the found footage here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you can tell that in the passion, like, you can tell the passion behind
Yeah.
Godforsaken, that you guys are horror fans, because it felt like there's a horror fan behind the camera.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it really felt like being found footage, right? Just single camera. It felt like, as actors, it felt like we were just like experiencing it all as it
I
happened.
bet.
There just happened to be a camera person there, getting around, covering all the angles, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some of these scenes too where when the chaos, I mean, really amps up. It's there from the beginning, but towards the end it gets like even crazier, kind of next level. Were there when y'all were having to do these super chaotic scenes, I feel like there's a lot of choreography that goes into making those scenes work so that they're cohesive and you're not running into each other or missing the stuff you're trying to get. Was there a lot of retakes you guys had to do just to get that part as perfect as you were able to get it?
There was, yeah, quite a few. Like we chopped up a lot of the scenes into sequences, right?
Hmm.
So
Okay.
we were able to then do like a quick blocking, so the camera would see where we're going and then know how to cover us. And then
Hmm.
we go in and we do a couple takes, really.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's so much stuff going on that we used a lot of the whip pans, right, and the fast camera movement as our cutting sequences, right. So we would cut on
Right.
those whip pans and then pick it up from there and go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and well, like Angel said, there were so many and in a good way chaotic scenes throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite scene from this movie, whether you were in it or not?
Um, yeah, I'd have to. Well, there's a couple. There's a couple. I would definitely say the whole movie theater scene and the zombie chase. That was one of my
So good.
favorite sequences,
So good.
kind of thing, right? My friend in town owns a movie theater, so we were able to get that, and
Perfect.
he was like, "Oh, I have Night of the Living Dead. Do you want me to play that for you on the screen?" I was like, "Yes, please." Right, so that's the movie that's playing in the movie theater, right? But
Yeah.
that's the night we had like 40 extras, right? All in there, like zombie makeup. And we had like a fake dummy that we threw off the roof that falls and hits the ground. And then it looks like he gets back up and starts coming
Yeah.
out, right? And it's like and zombies are coming from the left, zombies are coming from the right, and we're trying to get in this door. And it was just, that was an amazing experience. That scene. And I would say the end scene as well. One of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that end scene that had a lot of impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, like this movie was filled with those moments, but I think the way it ended just really nailed the rest of the movie. And I mean, an ending is a make or break for any movie. I think many people can attest to that. And I think
Yeah.
you guys just did a phenomenal job bookending your entire movie. Um, but something that I did want to bring up because I thought the acting was really well done in this
Yeah.
movie. So in the casting process, was it a longer one, or did you guys just like were some of the characters people that you already knew? Because Lisa was or her name was Lisa, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
she was fantastic in her role. I thought she did a great job,
I
and
agree.
the woman who I believe played your mother,
Yeah.
I
Nicole.
loved her.
Loved
Uh,
her.
how was the casting process
Yeah.
to find
The casting took us, I'd say less than a month. We had like when Ali first gave me the script and I read, um, of course, like having gone to a film school, acting school, there was a lot of
Oh,
people who was like, "Oh, I recommend this person and this person," right? So like Melly, who plays Lisa, she was one of my friends and colleagues from the film school, and I was like, "We need to go with her because she's an
yeah.
amazing actress, and even though she has no lines, just her physicality and everything,
Yeah.
how she brought it
Good.
alive,
Yeah.
she nailed it, and she just came in to talk to the director, and we basically gave her the role there.
Oh,
She was just perfect for the job.
She was like I said, she was such a standout.
yeah.
The the opening scene, like the whole casket and rebirth situation, like
Wild.
it was wild, and I was just drawn in because of her. So really well done on her end.
Yeah,
Just wanted to
Yeah.
give her a major kudos because I loved her.
yeah, and the couple ones that we did have to cast outside of our circle were the mothers. So like my
Oh,
mother, and then Chris's
her.
mother as
Yeah.
well. We did some outside casting for them, and
They did great.
we had auditions with quite a few people, and I was in the room reading with the mother characters, and it was Nicole that just like put the nail in the coffin, so to say, right? It was like when I was reading with her, I was like, I feel this, like,
Yeah, y'all's chemistry, I was gonna say, because that's another thing that I think this film does just really, really well is I care about every single person that
Mhm.
we meet to the point that like when you suffer that loss and then or we're seeing people dying, like it like affects me as a viewer. And I feel like especially because we do watch so much found footage because we love it so much, you get so much of the same and there's just no connection and it's just you just feel like you're watching the same stuff over and over again. So this has like the kick-ass crazy start to the beginning of the story and what's going on. You've got characters that have phenomenal chemistry, great storytelling, people I care about, I'm invested in emotionally, and then to keep that throughout, like what Mike was saying earlier, is just crazy. And I will tell you because I'm so used to being disappointed lately in the subgenre that I love so much. I promise, it was like, please let this ending meet the standard that this movie has created, and it did. And I like at the end of it, I'm like, we got to talk about this movie. Like this was not what I went in prepared to be bored, worried that I wasn't going to enjoy it, and I got just such a unique experience overall. And the chemistry between the characters, I mean, that elevated the entire experience for me.
Yeah,
yeah,
I have a similar experience as Angel. I love found footage. I've been watching it for many years. And like I tried to build a following on social media of people who love it as well. And I was doing like watching, I believe it was like somewhere during the pandemic, where I was watching like 3 found footage movies a day for the entire year. So I went through a lot. And then I was asking people, I was like, can someone just put me onto something that's like gonna blow my mind? I've seen so many, like throughout my entire life, I've seen so many of the main ones. Can someone just give me a good hidden gem? Like, I just need to find something to make me want to keep watching more and more. And a friend of mine said, oh, you should watch Godforsaken. I was like, okay, cool. Let me pull it up. At this time, it was on Tubi. And
Oh, so I didn't realize you saw it before Found TV. Ah, that's
oh,
awesome.
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I watched this one, and that's why I love this movie because I watched it, and again, opening sequence, I was like, "Well, I'm extremely invested. No matter where this goes, this will
Yeah,
be on like one of my top uh, favorite openings of horror films because that's
it's
something that
great.
I love to do is rank like different categories of parts of horror, and you guys are definitely up there for best opening. And then it just consistently kept me engaged, and like Angel said, like I cared about you and your friends.
Yeah.
I cared about the townspeople until they started making me less care about them. uh, but like I still felt so many different emotions throughout the movie, and once I was done, I was like, this is what I asked for. This is a hidden gem. This is what I'm going to be telling people about. Like, and I did. I was like nonstop talking about this movie. And like I said, I keep recommending this film just because you guys did such a great job. And talking to you, like now I see like the level of passion that I saw was there. Like
mhm.
you guys being horror fans, being close, knowing each other, like that really put it all together.
Yeah, and like that's one of the things when we were like building the team and everything like that, like we know each other's workflow and we really get each other, so it really felt like a family going in to like make this film, right? There was
Yeah.
everybody had worked with everyone before,
Yeah.
and was just really passionate about this. Was all really, this was everyone's first feature film that we made together,
Oh,
outside of film school. So um yeah, we were all passionate about making it. We didn't know where it would go at that point. We were like, yeah, let's just make a feature to say we've made a feature and put it out in some festivals. And it was actually in Malins Film Festival in Spain. And that's where it got noticed by a distribution company. And then that's where it all started, got picked up, and then out on Tubi and everywhere else now.
Well, I have to say, what a great first feature.
Yeah.
No
Like,
joke.
that's a great first feature to have. And
Yeah.
since going into that, is there any other projects that you guys are currently working on that you are able to discuss?
Yes. Well, myself now, Ali and Mariah, they moved out east. They're on the East Coast now. I'm currently located in Toronto. And so like I have a couple of my own films that are going on. We just won Best Dark Comedy for a film called Her Corpse. A suburbanite, young suburbanite who's he sees something fall from the sky into his backyard, and he goes out, and it's a woman's finger. And then he proceeds to go get the help of his stoner friends, and they go on a search for the missing corpse. And so that one's out in film festivals right now.
That sounds like fun.
And then I'm going to camera actually in a couple of weeks for a little comedy about online dating, the joys of that.
That could be a horror movie.
Oh, it definitely could, right? We didn't go that angle with this one, but
Sure.
you know, I love to dabble in every kind of genre.
No, I love that.
For
That's
myself,
awesome.
right? And I know Ali and Mariah, they just produced and directed a series, The Ghost of Caledonia Hills, in Nova Scotia, and that's based on a true story from their area. So it's out on like Bell 5 TV here in Canada. I think that's only where you can watch it right now.
Oh, okay.
And that's
cool.
what they've been working on out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, whenever I'm able to see anything from any of you, I'm gonna take the chance to
same.
watch it because, like I said, love this movie. So I'm invested in whatever you guys are putting out because such a wild idea and such a unique concept to found footage. I think that's what made it so amazing is that it felt very fresh. So I do love that you guys thought outside of the box. Do you know where like that concept came from? Like what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, it was Ali was inspired again by this Bollywood horror film, which had a similar character to Lisa. Wasn't a similar storyline to her, but was this woman who just dark hair, white dress, kind of very creepy, chasing after people. And it was like, okay, how can we maybe incorporate that? Because that was something like he had watched when he was younger and was like always like afraid of that, right? And so he wanted to like use that into his current film. And then he knew me, he knew my town, so he just kind of wrote the script and then was like, "Hey, Chad, what do you think?"
Yeah. And with it being the themes are relatively heavy, I think, depending on, maybe your walk of life or because I grew up Southern Baptist, and so I not quite a small town as this, but close enough. And I am now like very anti-religion because of that way being raised that way. Did you have any particular feelings on the concept of religion that played into this story, or was it just other parts of it for you?
No, myself, I grew up kind of religious, but left the church, just not agreeing with everything that they say, and that's fine. Some people can believe, and some people won't. And I just like the play on it that some of the townspeople they think that Lisa is a savior because she starts healing people, right? She has miraculous healing powers and all of that, and they're blinded by their religion a little bit into believing that and following her, right? And while some people are like, no, that is evil, that's pure evil, kind of, right? And so I like that concept and that theme there. That's kind of what drew me into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think found footage horror that dives into like anything religion based is usually like a huge box check for me because I always find something unique about what it's trying to say or the challenges it sort of presents because to your point it's like people need something good to hold on to sometimes. And when you're surrounded in chaos or bad or someone you love is sick or dying or something's wrong with you or yourself, you need something to hold on to that keeps you going, that makes you feel uplifted and positive. And so it's a very across the board human experience whether you tie religion to that or not. So it's a very, I guess, believable setup for something like this where it's easy to see why people would be so quick to be like, "Oh yes, our savior. This is what, this was brought here to make everything better for us and everything's going to be fine now." Because that's a very human emotional experience I think for most people, whether they're religious or not. So I love anything religion and horror. I'm usually like I'm so for. So this was obviously no exception. Like
Yeah.
it has had all the right things to say for me.
Same here. Religion horror is such a fun box for me. But especially like so both of us found footage is one of our favorite subgenres of all
Mhm.
time. And then I like the other subgenres that meld with found footage, and religious found
Yeah.
footage horror is such a good time for me. One thing that I did want to add, because there's a different mindset of when you're making something and then when you're watching it back, and as opposed to what
Mm,
people are seeing.
mm.
Did you guys realize how wild of a movie you were actually making? Because one of my favorite things to check is I love Letterbox. I love logging these movies. I love looking at people's lists. And your movie is on a lot of lists that basically the titles are WTF movies, weird as heck movie, uh, bonkers movie. Like, did you guys realize how out of the box you were thinking?
No, no, we didn't realize where it was going until we saw it in the editing room. Really,
Oh, wow.
we knew it was going to be out of the box, like not the typical format,
Yeah.
Sure.
but didn't know it was going to ramp up, right? And um, even the shooting of it as well, like going into it and shooting it out of sequence and having to know like, okay, where am I ending off emotionally? And then
Yeah.
it's, well, there's only up from there, right? So then it was like, okay, go up from here, and then it was like, once I saw it, it was like, wow.
Yeah, because like we said, you started off with a bang, and the fact that it
Yeah.
just kept going upwards, because such a strong opening, like Angel had said, sometimes you get nervous that something can't live up to what you just saw,
Yeah.
and you guys just kept ramping it up, and I just could not believe that my expectations just kept being surpassed every single time that I thought something different of your movie. I'm like, this is amazing, but like, there's no way it can get crazier than this. And
And then it
it did.
does.
And it just kept going until the end credits. Like, once the movie was over, I was like, well, now it definitely can't get any crazier because it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, does Chad die? Does Chad become Lisa's follower? Who knows?
Yeah, I
Open-ended.
didn't.
Open
Yeah.
ending, right?
Like,
Does
I
she
love
take him
those.
into town? I don't know.
do you
Yeah.
think that opens it up for a sequel?
I think it does. Yes, we have talked about it. We're
Ooh.
not 100% sure yet, but yeah, there's definitely a possibility.
Well, I think the people who loved the first would definitely be
Eat up
like
a second
so
one.
open
Yeah.
to that sequel. Like,
Yeah.
because like I said, this is still a movie that I hope that more eyes just keep getting on it. But what I've noticed is the people who do watch it, like, you are creating this small cult following already. Because when I hear people talk about this movie, especially because there's a lot of people who don't like found footage for many different reasons,
Yeah.
and they do talk, if they saw this movie, they talk about this movie in such a high regard. And I can see why, because like I said, this is just an easy movie to recommend to people who want to watch something found footage but don't want to watch something slow. People who like they're especially like all over social media, people are like, I just want to watch something crazy. Give me something crazy.
Something, yeah,
Godforsaken.
out
Watch
there. Yeah,
Godforsaken.
yeah,
Yeah. Fans want to be entertained, right?
they
And
do.
I
Well,
get
we're
you.
so used to that formula, right? That pacing of like being super slow and crazy and like only at the end. And we've talked, I don't know if Mike and I specifically, but in the course of having a found footage series, I've said like you don't have to stick to that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's so risky playing it that way because then I spent this whole hour waiting on something awesome and then it puts all this pressure on the last segment of your movie, which I think we did talk about recently in a different
Yeah.
review. But it was like it's so much pressure on the ending, and then you get to the end and you're like, no. Like, see, this is why it's okay to take risk in this subgenre. It can grow and change.
Yeah, exactly. And fun fact about the ending too. The ending that is in the movie is not the actual original ending. We did have a whole different ending when Chad goes to the church at the end. Um,
Oh,
and that was in the festival cut. And then after the festival cut, Ali came back to me and said, "Hey, I have another idea for the ending. I think it'll ramp it up at the end, kind of thing." And I was like, "Let's do it. Let's do it." So
Okay, I'm gonna need a Blu-ray with
how do you get to see that
the
ending? I'm thinking the
festival
same thing. I'm
cut,
like, come
the
on.
ending,
yeah,
because you can't tell me that there's a different
Oh my
ending.
God. I'm
alternate.
so
Yeah. Mariah's holding on to it, and we will release it in time,
ooh,
That's
that'd
so
be
awesome.
people
cool.
can see. But yeah, we actually like ended up going back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic
Mm.
to film the ending again in May, when we had originally filmed it in November of 2019. So we had to go back there and yeah, and shoot in the church with masks and COVID protocols and all that kind of
Oh my
stuff. You
gosh.
know, it was hard, but it was so worth it at the end. We were like,
Okay.
this is what we wanted.
And for it to come out so seamless.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Like, to be able to go I would have never in a million years guessed that that was done that way. It's
yeah,
so seamless, there's no disconnect in emotions, like, what we're seeing, like, it's all completely fluid. That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I would have never been able to guess because this was just so well done. With, like you said, there's no disconnect. There's no making me think that something was separate
That's
or that
crazy.
people were going through anything. Like, that's awesome.
yeah. I was just glad that I still had my wardrobe that I had wore like 6 months ago.
Oh,
And
I didn't even think
until
about that
I
part.
was like, oh my God, do I have that coat? Do I have that pants? Oh yeah, I do. Okay, we're green light, let's go.
Because were they already grimy? Wouldn't they be covered in all kinds of stuff
They
by that
were,
point?
and I'm kind of a hoarder. Like sometimes I keep things from films that I'm on, and I kept
I would
it
probably do
in,
the same
in my
thing.
closet, and I was like, yeah, maybe
Just pull
one day.
this out.
I'm glad I did, because yeah,
I
without
didn't even think about that part.
the only thing that we had to do with the ending was because it was in May, and previously there was snow on the ground.
Snow, yeah.
So we ended up having to get like a bunch of snow blankets everywhere and lie them on the ground, covering the grass and everything for the exterior part of the church. And
You
That is
cannot
cool.
tell. I'm gonna
right,
have to go
Yeah.
rewatch and look
I
for
was
this.
just thinking the same thing. I was like, now I gotta go back and watch that segment again
yeah,
because
But yeah, I would have
crazy.
never guessed it at all because you cannot tell.
no,
But you did mention, so this had hit the festival circuits. Um, was there, because I know like it was during the pandemic and everything too, was it just virtual or did you guys have like in-person uh, festival runs? Because I would have loved to seen this in the theater. So I just want to like know what was like the reaction to this movie because I can only imagine seeing it with a group of people.
unfortunately we didn't get a,
Okay.
a, a public screening of it. So because we did the festival circuit all in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's virtual.
So we previewed in Spain and the UK and a couple North American film festivals, but all online.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the feedback was amazing. Like again, like a lot of people were saying, "Wow, like WTF, what
Yeah.
is this?"
Taking
kind
it,
of thing,
yeah.
right? So that's what we wanted at the end of the day, right? And
Yeah.
now it's great that it's finding its following and stuff, right?
Yeah.
more lovers of found footage are seeing it and appreciating it, and like that's why we make movies. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's kind of cool to see probably as people being a part of the filmmaking process because you've got like your initial like when I think Mike you said you watched it on Tubi, so like the initial this is when it came out and stuff. And then now you've got and now it's on Found TV. So like people are like it's almost like a re-release of it and people are like I genuinely have not seen a single negative thing about this movie since it came out on Found TV. Like and because it was part of their what was it, their 30 days or whatever it was, Mike?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so it was part of that.
And then as just recently too, because I noticed they have a little segment at the top that says like most watched of the week, and you guys were on it for like a couple weeks straight.
I noticed that too.
And I
Yeah,
said, because the minute you told me that we were interviewing, like I just kept looking up and I'm like, it's consistently there. So I'm glad that people are watching it on Found TV. Because like I said, this is just, I'm going to keep saying it. This is just such a great movie. So I'm glad that it's getting more eyes on it because I really, in the found footage world, I think
Yeah.
you guys just really nailed something amazing, unique, and just something worth
Yeah.
watching with also what I love about movies and what makes a movie really high on my list is the rewatchability factor of your movie. And that's not always the case with found footage. Um, Even the ones that are good, they're not always the most rewatchable because we talked about like the slow burn formula. You
Yeah,
don't always want to rewatch that. Your
that's true.
movie, this week alone, I've watched it 3 times.
Dang,
Within
awesome.
within the past
I love
like
it.
7 days, like I think I've watched it 3 times. Uh, One again for to prep for this, but then I was like, you know what? I forgot how much I love this movie. I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, and because it's so fast paced too, there's a lot of like little hidden gems that you
I
may
bet.
miss, right, when you're watching it the first time
Yeah,
or the second time, right? And again, you don't have to get through that slow burn because you know it. Well, it starts off high, right, and then like each scene, little there's little gems in every single scene that you see.
yeah. Did you notice doing found footage specifically, were there certain things that were I guess we'll call them obstacles, but I just mean like I'm always interested in the processing of filmmaking for from any angle, whether it's any from just from like any part of the filmmaking process. But with there being is such a specific way to film, were there things that came up while you guys were filming that were specifically obstacles because you were doing found footage?
There was, yeah, I would say the scene where after my mother comes back to life and
Yeah.
she eats the dog, that part,
Yeah.
that was a challenge. It was like, okay, how do we approach this and how do we make it, because we actually had our special effects makeup artist make a replica dog of the dog we use.
Cool.
um,
Yeah.
so she made the body and she made the head. And then it
Wow.
was like, okay, how do we film this to make it look seamless? Well, we have the real dog running through the backyard, and then all of a sudden, when you get out there with the camera, now it's the
It's the fake dog.
stuffed, bloody dummy dog, right? So
Yeah.
that was pretty tricky to film. We had to do that a few times. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's again one of my favorite scenes too.
I wasn't ready for that though, because I didn't think I mean, obviously, like, this movie's not very predictable, I don't feel in general anyway, but that was, like, shocking probably is probably a good word, but it was just one of those things where you're in the moment because 'cause you're like, "Oh, no," like I said, I'm very invested in you, I'm very invested in your relationship with her, like, I'm in this, and then that happens, and I'm like, "What am I watching right now?" But I mean that obviously. As a horror fan, that's always a compliment, right? But it was just like these like where it catches my brain takes several minutes to like catch back up to move forward with the movie, one of
Mhm.
those kind of things.
Yeah, and just before my mother comes back to life, there's a scene where Chris at Chris's house where Lisa's living in the basement,
And the yeah.
and he brings down his mother's cat to kind of feed her. Right, that was all like we didn't have that written in the script. That was just the house that we were filming at had a cat, and it was one of
Wow.
my friend's house, and we were like, can we use your cat for a cameo in the film? And it was like, it just made that, because we were like, humans, when we see an animal die, we're really attached. We're a little bit more attached than we are when we see humans die on
Oh,
film. Right?
yes.
So adding the
Yes.
cat and then adding the dog, it's just
It's
like
a
an
lot.
extra knife in the stomach and in the
Yeah.
gut for the audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially to do 2, like you said, because you're like, all right, so you see the one event, and then you're like, all right, we're probably done with that, right? No way. Surely there's not another circumstance where another animal is going to be. And yeah, I mean, typically when I see any animal in a horror movie, I'm immediately like, oh no. Like every single time, I'm like, please
Yeah.
don't do this to me, that kind of thing.
So, and then you kind of touched on a point because you said like you did 2 of them. And then you're touching on religious topics, which we know that a lot of people can be very sensitive to.
Mhm.
Because you are wearing multiple hats as lead actor and as co-producer. As producers, where do you feel that you need to like draw the line on when you're pushing something too far or when to bring it back?
Oh, that's a good
Because like I
question.
said, the movie to me didn't go far, but it definitely pushed boundaries.
Boundaries.
So how do you decide when you're going too far in movie making?
Yeah, when we were developing the script and Ali first approached me with it, we did have lots of discussions between him and myself and Mariah,
Mm.
to be like, are we going too far? Should we steer back here? Should we ramp up here? But at the end of the day, it was like, yes, ramp it up, put it all in. Let's do it. Like
Nice.
let's. I don't care what people think. If they don't like it, they don't like it. That's fine. We're okay
Sure.
with that, right? It's
Yep.
not your cup of tea. It's not your cup of tea. But
Yep.
we wanted to appeal to the horror lovers, right? And
Yeah.
people that aren't afraid to watch that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And just
Glad you made that decision.
yeah, just be immersed in the world. Like we wanted to entertain and
Yeah.
scare and everything. So I think we got
Yeah.
that.
No, I think you more than accomplished that because I think that horror is meant to push boundaries. And I will say, I'm a firm believer everything is not for everybody, and there are
Mhm.
things that push boundaries that I'm not willing to dive into, and I'm not interested in going that route. I'll never be a Terrifier fan as long as I live. And it's not I don't shy away from gore and stuff, but that just is not I am not the target audience for those movies. But
Right.
this pushes it in a way you are it pushes this movies like this and these specific scenes that we're talking about, they push the boundaries to the point where it's a reminder of how uncomfortable everything else is meant to feel. You're not supposed to go into these movies and be super pumped and excited and happy. Like you're supposed to
Yeah.
be excited, but you're supposed to be uncomfortable or scared or worried or bothered. And I think that those are the things that keep us coming back to that genre in general is horror is it's just about pushing those boundaries and those limitations of what can we do to make the audience feel what we want them to feel. And I don't necessarily, I would say, especially in found footage, from my professional opinion, I don't think that's an easy thing to do either because I've seen other films that have tried to do similar things with deaths or types of deaths in that regard that don't work or they're not as unsettling and you're just kind of like, oh, it feels like a throwaway scene or
Yeah.
whereas everything that happens in Godforsaken, at least for me, and I think Mike probably feels the same way, I felt every scene.
Mhm.
Everything that you guys wanted us to feel, I guarantee you I felt it from start to finish. And it's just not an easy thing to do, I think, for this subgenre particularly. So all in all, it's very well done.
Yeah.
Thank
Every decision felt purposeful. So like
Yes,
it came
that's very
to
well said.
those
Perfect.
uncomfortable scenes,
Yes.
it did feel needed. Like you
Yes.
weren't
Yes.
putting anything in there uh just to push the boundary. It was
Yeah.
there for a
Had a purpose.
particular reason.
Hmm.
Or at least that's definitely how it felt.
Yeah,
Um
I agree.
so again, I appreciate that too because I do want to go into a movie. Obviously, I want to leave the movie not traumatized. However, I do want to feel uncomfortable. I do want to feel that anxiousness. I do want it to creep under my skin. And
you.
I think you guys did a great job at hitting all of those points. Again, um, horror fans behind a horror movie, you can tell.
Yeah.
And I just really, really appreciate this movie.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, there was lots of like purposeful moments, and even lots of like moments where when we would do a take, and maybe one of the crew members, one of our friends that was on the crew, was like, "Oh, what about this?" And we would do another take and throw in that idea. So it was really like a group effort in some
Collaborative.
cases, right?
Yeah.
So collaborative, right? And there were some moments where even like the crew members were crying when my mom dies and all
That,
of
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. That
Like
was rough.
they were moved as well, and I was like, wow, okay, if they're getting moved, I hope audience members also feel the same thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're the reason I think behind that though, because that scene is like I'm definitely like a crier when I watch like rom-coms and family movies and all those kind of things. So what I feel like I'm open to the opportunity to do that for horror movies, but again, I feel like that's not a super easy thing. And this definitely almost got me there because I was like so sad for you. Like I felt like I knew you personally and I was like suffering this loss with you, so I think that people reacting to that particular loss is an exact, like, it's reflective because of your ability to make us feel that way, because I was so upset for you. I was like, "Come on." Like I felt like you deserved a break. I was like, these people, like, things are just going crazy and I'm like, this poor guy." And so but
Yep.
that's a testament to what you brought to the table as your character. And I definitely think we felt it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on something that you said regarding the crew and like this was a collaborative effort. If they saw something, what about this? Because you do see a lot of collaborative effort in found footage because a lot of found footage is usually very independent.
Mhm.
Um, and so there's a lot of hats to be worn by an individual person in found footage. You are a co-producer as well as the lead. There's a lot of writers who are the writer, director,
The lead,
lead.
the yeah.
Do you think that's a strong strength to found footage? Or do you find was there anything difficult about wearing more than one hat in this movie?
Well, I definitely find it advantageful to wear multiple hats, right? With found footage and just with indie filmmaking in general, right? To
Yeah.
get the job done together. And but yeah, it is some of the hardest things were that, I was basically hosting this film crew in my hometown, so also being like the public relations person, being the location manager, making sure everybody got food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all of that kind of stuff, and then have to, take off that hat and put on the acting hat and start
Yeah.
screaming and crying and go
Yeah.
do that, and then take that hat off and be like, okay,
Yeah.
now it's time for dinner, everyone. Let's go to
Yeah.
our restaurant in town, blah blah blah, and do that, and then have the a few of the times townspeople would come by and want to do interviews for the local newspaper and stuff. So you'd have to take off that hat and do that. Um, and then like all of the houses you see in the film were all like my friends' homes that we had to
Yeah.
move them out for the day or move them out for a couple days.
Yeah.
So we took over and did that, and they would come back at the end of the day and check in, and then come back. But yeah, so that was like that was the most challenging part of the whole thing for me myself as producer and lead actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take anything back. I mean,
Yeah.
it was such a magical experience. So
Well, and it sounds like you guys are so close knit anyway, though. I'm sure it's like it's one thing to have to do all of that and feel like you're doing it all on your own versus working in that collaborative team environment. Like you said, it was like working with family that you trust and you can rely on each other, and everybody, it means the same to the person next to you as it does to you. I mean, that has to make like a huge difference, I imagine.
yeah, yeah, and we're still super close now. We
Oh,
always
I love
talk,
that
we
for
always
y'all.
hang out. We have our Godforsaken family chat and everything, right? So
I love it.
yeah, yeah,
Well, y'all have to let us know if y'all do a sequel. We will be all over it.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's definite because I'm waiting for more things that have to do with this movie, even if it's not a sequel. Like I want awesome like Blu-ray release. I can't wait for your anniversaries. Like, there's just so much that I cannot wait for with this movie in particular. But again, it's a testament to the passion that you guys have for your filmmaking, for your creative process, and just everything that you've put into this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of that, this is actually today is our 4th year anniversary of the release on the
Oh,
20th.
That's right.
Yeah, it'll be this week when it's released, but the 25th of March was 4 years.
That's crazy.
Oh my, I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Happy
Yeah.
anniversary to Godforsaken.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I was just actually going to lean into that and ask because I know you had mentioned that in the email when we were going back and forth that it was the release. But yeah, happy anniversary. That's awesome.
I thought
Does
that
it?
was so cool.
Yeah, it worked out great that way. It wasn't necessarily planned. It was just trying to get timing and dates together for everybody that would work. And no, that's amazing. And it's so cool to be a part of something like that anyway because we big fans of the movie. So um, yeah. Well, thank you so much again for coming and hanging out with us, Chad. We had a great time. We really do love this
Yes.
movie. You were great.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's great to meet fellow fans of found footage and
Yeah.
horror films. Love talking about it. Have come
Yeah.
out anytime, and maybe I'll send you a direct link to the alts ending.
We would love that.
Yeah,
We'll be all over that for sure. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us on this very special episode of Found Footage Fridays. If you have not downloaded Found TV, I don't understand. I'm very confused. Please remedy that. And Mike and I will have to talk off camera about what we want to do with our giveaway because as I presumed it was not we still have one to give away. We still have like a whole year subscription to Found TV to give away. So we'll have to revisit that. You can also get $5 off an annual subscription with the keyword voices, just VOICES, gets you $5 off the annual. What are you waiting for? Go watch Godforsaken on Found TV. And thanks again for hanging out with us. We hope everybody has a great rest of their Found Footage Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you all in the next one.